What if fear was never real? What if it was only a shadow, a ghost born inside your mind, and you've held the lantern all along? Fear, the invisible jailer of your soul, the whisper that says you're not enough, the shadow behind every dream abandoned, the gatekeeper standing before your destiny. But what if fear is not your enemy? What if fear is your greatest teacher, the dragon that guards your hidden treasure? And that treasure is your infinite self. Fear dissolves not when you fight it, but when you look at it with sacred eyes. Imagine walking through fear like a doorway. Imagine finding invincibility on the other side. Ancient sages whispered, fear is illusion. Mystics declared, fear dies in the light of love. Shamans revealed, fear is a spirit to transform. And you are the alchemist of your reality. Today you will see fear as never before. Are you ready to awaken the warrior of light? This journey has only just begun. Stay with us until the end, for the final revelation will change the way you see fear forever. If this message resonates with your soul, subscribe now. Activate the bell so you never miss the wisdom that awaits, and let your light spread by sharing this video with those who need it most. Your like is more than support. It is a spark that tells the universe you are ready to awaken. The path is open. Walk with us. Fear is not just an emotion, it is an ancient shadow that has walked with humanity since the beginning of time. Once a guardian of survival, today it has become a silent prison of the soul. In this journey, we will uncover the spiritual codes to dissolve fear, transmute it into inner power, and awaken the invincible essence within you. This is not about escaping fear, it is about alchemizing it into light. Chapter 1. The Ancient Origins of Fear. Since the dawn of humanity, fear has walked beside us like an invisible companion. It whispered to our ancestors when fire burned too close, when predators lurked in the shadows, when storms threatened survival. In those primal days, fear was sacred, a divine signal from the body that preserved life. It was not the enemy, but the guardian of survival. Yet what once saved us has now evolved into something far more subtle, far more dangerous. As the external threats diminished, fear did not vanish. It transformed. It turned inward, embedding itself into the mind, projecting new predators: rejection, failure, humiliation, loneliness. The jungle disappeared, but the shadows remained, now hiding within the heart and psyche of humanity. We began running not from lions, but from illusions, phantoms woven by thought. And still, these phantoms were powerful enough to chain the soul in silence. Ancient mystics knew this truth and spoke of it in sacred texts. In the Vedas, fear was born from Maya, the illusion of separation from the whole. Forgetting who we are, we tremble before shadows of our own making, mistaking the dream for reality. To awaken is to pierce that veil of illusion, to return to remembrance. Fear then is not an external enemy, but the echo of our own forgetfulness, waiting for us to reclaim the eternal bond. The Gnostics spoke of fear as an archonic veil, a distortion designed to keep souls asleep and enslaved. They taught that fear is not the predator, but the cage, not the fire, but the smoke that blinds us from the eternal flame within. This veil feeds illusions, binding the mind in chains of doubt. To pierce it is to reclaim your divine origin, to awaken to your forgotten radiance, and to step boldly into the light of remembrance. Shamans across traditions described fear as a living entity, a spirit that must be faced, not denied or silenced. Through ritual, vision quests, and sacred silence, they entered dialogue with fear, transforming it from shadow into ally. In their eyes, fear was never just an obstacle, but a gatekeeper of initiation. The test of courage is not in killing the guardian, but in walking through the threshold with awareness and sacred trust in the unseen. Philosophers too unraveled the mystery, offering keys for the mind. Epictetus, the Stoic, declared, "Events do not create fear, it is our interpretation of them." Plotinus, the Neoplatonist, added, "The soul escapes fear when it lifts its gaze toward eternity." Both whispered the same hidden truth. Fear exists only where perception is bound to the temporary. When you raise your vision to the eternal, fear dissolves into a shadow with no master. Even Christian mysticism offered its key. Perfect love casts out fear. St. John knew that fear dissolves not by battle, but by light. Love is not the opposite of fear. It is the truth that makes fear unnecessary, for where love dwells, fear cannot survive. Where love shines, the shadows scatter. Where divine light enters, fear loses its throne. Love is not a weapon against fear. It is the remembrance of the wholeness you always were. Beyond philosophy and mysticism, fear is also energy, vibrating within the subtle body. It anchors itself in the lower chakras, freezing vitality, keeping the spirit tethered to survival mode. Fear vibrates at a frequency that blocks creativity, love, and vision. It is not just a thought, nor just an emotion. It is a current of energy demanding to be transmuted. Until it is faced, it acts like stagnant water, denying the soul's ascent into higher realms. Thus the ancients taught, fear is not an enemy, but a threshold of initiation. Like the dragon that guards the treasure, fear is the final test before you touch the gold of your soul. It waits at the edge of every dream, at the door of every transformation. Only by facing it with presence can you unlock the hidden chamber of your infinite potential. The treasure is never beyond fear. It is always hidden directly behind it. Fear is the forgetting of who you are. Courage is the remembrance, the flame that reminds the soul of its eternal nature. Every time you meet fear with awareness, you reclaim a fragment of your lost self, and the shadows begin to dissolve. The dragon shrinks, and the treasure shines brighter. To awaken is not to kill fear, but to recognize it as the guardian of your own light, an ally disguised in the cloak of darkness. Humanity's history is proof. Fear has shaped civilizations, written myths, and forged religions. From the trembling of the cave to the temples of initiation, it has always been present as the silent force guiding or enslaving. But those who saw through its mask became masters, sages, warriors of light. They knew the secret long forgotten. Fear is the shadow of power unclaimed, and to step into power, one must embrace its shadow. And now, Seeker, the map is revealed before you. Fear is ancient, yes, but not eternal. It can be dissolved, transmuted, transcended by those who dare to look deeper. The journey you are about to take is not against fear. It is through it, into its heart, beyond its illusions. And on the other side lies not just peace, but invincibility itself, the remembrance of the eternal warrior of light sleeping within you. Chapter 2. The Hidden Architecture of Fear. Fear is not chaos. It has a secret design, an invisible architecture woven into the human being. It does not fall randomly from the sky. It builds foundations inside the body, the mind, and the spirit. Every tremor, every hesitation, every whisper of doubt is part of its hidden structure. To understand fear is to unveil its blueprint, to see the geometry it uses to control the soul. And once revealed, this geometry begins to dissolve under the light of awareness. The architecture of fear anchors itself first in the body, rooting deeply in the lower chakras where survival instincts dwell. It ties you to scarcity, mistrust, and the illusion that life is a constant threat without refuge. This foundation was once useful, but now it limits the ascent of the spirit toward higher states of consciousness. The current that once warned of predators now blocks creativity, love, and expansion. Fear chains the soul by chaining the body to its lowest frequencies. The nervous system becomes fear's living library, storing every vibration, every memory, and every wound. Long after the original danger has passed, the reflex remains alive within the flesh. A raised heartbeat, a cold sweat, a sudden hesitation. These are echoes of experiences you may not even remember. Fear writes itself into the body like sacred symbols carved into stone. Until you bring awareness, the body keeps repeating a story that the soul no longer needs, replaying an old echo. What you call fear is often nothing more than unresolved energy, frozen in time and unprocessed by the spirit. A rejection, a betrayal, a moment of shame. Each one leaves behind a fragment of energy that was never released into light. This frozen vibration becomes the seed of fear, whispering illusions whenever life resembles the old wound. The past becomes the architect of the present moment, and the soul becomes prisoner of echoes that do not belong to it anymore, yet still rule silently. The ego, fragile and temporary, feeds on this trapped energy like a parasite. It knows that fear is the perfect fuel to maintain its illusion of control over your choices. The ego whispers, "You are not enough. Do not try. Stay small." Its architecture is not true strength, but manipulation and disguise. It survives by convincing you that fear protects you, when in truth it only protects the ego's fragile throne. The ego's cage is made not of iron, but of your unquestioned beliefs. Fear disguises itself well. It dresses as logic, as prudence, as common sense. It tells you, wait until you're ready, do not risk it, be realistic. But behind this elegant mask lies only limitation and stagnation. Its true purpose is not to protect you, but to keep you from stepping into the unknown, where your soul expands. Every excuse is another brick in the wall, another lock on the cage. What looks like wisdom is often only fear in sacred disguise, demanding obedience. Yet every fear hides a secret longing, a hidden desire of the soul that yearns to awaken. Behind the shadow lies the light it tries desperately to conceal from you. The architecture of fear is paradoxical. Within its structure of limitation lives the very map to your freedom. Fear points with trembling hands to the very thing your spirit craves. It is not here to stop you forever. It is here to reveal what you are ready to claim. The shadow hides the treasure of your destiny. Anxiety about failure, for example, is not about falling. It is about the soul's call to rise higher than before. The fear of rejection is not about exclusion. It hides the longing for deep and authentic connection. The fear of speaking is not about silence. It reveals the voice aching to be heard. Behind every trembling wall is a door, and behind every door is a sacred desire waiting. Fear is both obstacle and invitation, both darkness and the hidden dawn of your awakening. Fear constructs invisible prisons, walls of what if, that trap the dreamer at the threshold of their destiny. What if I fail? What if I lose? What if they judge me? These questions are the bars of a cell that does not exist anywhere but in the mind. The body obeys this illusion, and the spirit remains trapped in paralysis. But no prison built by thought is eternal. To see the wall for what it is, only smoke, is the first act of liberation, the first breath of truth. Every prison has a key, and the key is awareness. Awareness is the light that reveals the illusion, the presence that dissolves the architecture of fear brick by brick. When you see fear without judgment, you remove its foundation and watch the cage collapse. It cannot feed on denial. It starves when illuminated by presence. Awareness transforms fear from master to messenger, from wall to mirror. The key was never outside. It has always been the conscious gaze of your soul. Awareness dissolves illusion because fear cannot survive being truly seen. Once the shadow is illuminated, it loses its form and its strength. What was once a roaring monster shrinks into a trembling echo of itself. You begin to realize that fear was never the hand holding you. It was only the shadow of your own unclaimed power. And in that revelation, the architecture of fear falls apart, leaving only space for truth, courage, and expansion to rise within your being. To know the architecture of fear is to prepare for its alchemy, for knowledge is the beginning of transformation. Once you see its structure, you are no longer its prisoner. You are its observer. And the observer is always greater than what is observed. The hidden geometry of fear was never designed to enslave you. It was designed to test if you can see beyond illusion. When you do, fear becomes what it was meant to be, a sacred threshold into light and awakening. Decode Chapter 3, The Alchemy of Fear. Fear is not meant to be destroyed, but transmuted, turned from shadow into fuel for awakening. Just as the alchemists saw lead as the raw material for gold, fear is the hidden substance from which higher consciousness is forged. Within its density lies the seed of illumination. To reject fear is to reject the fire of transformation. To embrace it is to activate the ancient art of turning darkness into light. Ancient alchemists did not only work with metals, they worked with the soul. They knew that the heaviest lead within us, the weight of fear, was the very material needed to create the gold of divine wisdom. Every trembling thought, every anxious heartbeat, every unspoken word is the raw matter for inner alchemy. Fear is the base element, but consciousness is the fire that changes its form. In this crucible, the shadow becomes radiance. To transmute fear, you must feel it fully without identifying with it. Most flee from fear, suppress it, or mask it with distractions. But the alchemical secret is presence. Entering the fire without running, observing the trembling without naming it enemy. Presence is the flame that does not burn, but purifies. To remain present within fear is to discover that you are the observer, not the prisoner, of the storm rising within. Most people suppress fear or convert it into anger, creating more shadows instead of dissolving them. The true path is to witness fear in stillness, like a mystic watching clouds pass before the eternal sky. When you do not fight fear, you allow it to reveal its nature. It is not a monster, but energy seeking release. To stay and to watch is to begin the alchemy. What resists, persists, but what is observed transforms. When you breathe into fear with awareness, its energy begins to dissolve, not by force, but by light. Conscious breath carries the fire of the soul into frozen places of the body. Inhaling, you welcome presence. Exhaling, you release the weight. Slowly, the storm turns into a breeze. The prison turns into space. Breath is the alchemist's tool, a sacred rhythm that reminds you, you are alive, you are present, you are greater than fear. Transmutation begins in the body. Trembling hands, tight chest, frozen stomach, all are portals into hidden energy. Fear manifests physically to show you where consciousness is needed most. To ignore these signals is to abandon the gold hidden within them. But to enter the body with awareness is to step into the furnace of transformation. Each knot is a doorway, each contraction a sacred map leading you back to your own light. The key is to stay, to not escape when fear rises, to remain like a warrior of presence whispering inwardly, I am here, I see you. This simple act dismantles the architecture of fear. The shadow loses power when met with unwavering attention. Fear is a child of the unconscious. It thrives in darkness, but trembles when exposed to the gaze of awakened consciousness. To stay is to win, not by battle, but by presence. As you embrace fear, it reveals its hidden face, an unfulfilled longing of the soul. What you thought was terror was actually desire, denied for too long. Behind the fear of silence is the hunger to speak truth. Behind the fear of darkness is the longing for light. Fear hides your sacred desires beneath its cloak. The alchemy begins when you dare to lift that cloak, discovering that the shadow always points to the treasure. Behind the fear of speaking lies the soul's desire to be heard and recognized. Behind the fear of rejection lies the deep longing to love and be loved without condition. Behind the fear of failure lies the hunger to rise, to create, to expand. Fear is a mirror that reflects not weakness, but the magnitude of what you secretly seek. It is the shadowed map to your destiny, written in trembling lines of possibility. Each fear is a mirror showing you the treasure you've denied yourself. By avoiding the shadow, you also avoid the light it conceals. To run from fear is to run from your own becoming. But when you stop and gaze into the mirror, the reflection changes. You realize that fear was never a wall, but a doorway, and on the other side waits the very life your soul came here to claim, radiant and unbound. When you embrace fear as an alchemical fire, it no longer enslaves you, it forges you. The trembling becomes strength, the doubt becomes clarity, the shadow becomes light. This is the secret of the sages. Fear is not the end of the path, but the beginning of mastery. Every confrontation with fear is an initiation, a sacred trial. To walk through it is to become more than human. You become a conscious creator of your own destiny. The alchemy of fear is the art of remembrance. You are not the trembling body nor the racing mind. You are the eternal witness who can shape energy. Fear is only raw material, and you are the alchemist. To transmute fear is to reclaim your forgotten power, to awaken as the warrior of light who sees shadows and turns them into suns. This is not theory, it is your path, your initiation, your sacred fire. Chapter 4. Walking through the sacred gate of fear is not a wall meant to stop you. It is a gate disguised as shadow. It appears immovable, impenetrable, a silent guardian blocking your path. Yet, in truth, it is a threshold built of illusion, waiting for you to pass through with courage. Every time you stand before fear, you are standing before a doorway to transformation. The question is not whether you can enter, but whether you will dare to step forward into the unknown. Every great transformation in myth and history begins with stepping through this sacred threshold. From the hero's journey to the mystic's initiation, fear is the first trial and the last excuse. Those who turn back remain in the comfort of the known, but those who cross find themselves reborn into a higher version of their being. The gate is not punishment, it is passage. Every soul that longs for expansion must face it, for it is the path written in destiny itself. Heroes of every myth encounter the dragon before they reach the treasure. This dragon is not flesh, but fear itself, roaring at the entrance to your power and your destiny. Its fire is the fire of doubt. Its claws are hesitation and self-denial. The treasure it guards is not gold, but your true essence, the core of your infinite light. The myth repeats itself through you. Every dream you hold is protected by a dragon of fear, and only courage opens the way forward to the prize. The dragon is fear itself, testing if you are ready to claim your power and your truth. If the treasure were free, it would not transform you, and the journey would be empty. But standing in front of the dragon strips away illusion and weakness. It forces you to decide, will you bow to the shadow or walk into it with sacred fire and presence? This test is not cruelty, but preparation, for only the one who has walked through fear can truly carry the light of freedom. The only way forward is through, and this is the truth most souls resist. Avoiding fear only strengthens its hold. Escaping it only builds its shadow taller and darker. But when you step into it, trembling yet awake, the illusion dissolves before your eyes. Fear cannot survive direct passage. Like mist before the morning sun, it scatters as you move. You discover that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the act of walking while shaking, guided by the soul's fire. Each step into fear is an initiation, proof that the soul is stronger than the illusion that binds it. This is why fear rises at the edge of every breakthrough. It signals that you are close to the sacred threshold of change. Fear does not appear to stop you. It appears to test your readiness for greatness. Every time you act despite the trembling, you are not failing. You are passing the initiation written into your very spirit, carving light from shadow. The gate opens only when you walk while trembling, yet still moving forward. Courage is not the roar of the fearless. It is the whisper of the soul that moves even while shaking and uncertain. The sacred path was never for those who feel nothing. It was for those who feel deeply and still dare. The trembling body is not weakness. It is evidence that you are close to the portal of transformation, a sign that destiny is near and waiting. Courage is not absence of fear, but action aligned with truth despite it. Fear says, stay safe, do not risk, do not step. Courage says, I will step anyway, for truth is greater than comfort. When the soul chooses truth over illusion, the gate responds instantly, the locks fall away, and the threshold opens. You discover that what you thought was impossible was always waiting for the presence of your sacred yes, the vibration of your consent to destiny. With each threshold crossed, your energy rises. Fear turns into vitality, doubt into clarity, hesitation into momentum. The very energy that once paralyzed you becomes fuel for your ascent and expansion. This is the paradox of the gate. The shadow becomes your fire, the enemy becomes your ally, the wound becomes your wisdom. Fear was never waste. It was power waiting to be released, energy bound in chains until your courage shattered them into radiant light and freedom. The mind whispers danger because it fears losing control. The soul whispers, freedom lies here, because it knows fear is the final illusion before truth. When you listen to the mind, the gate remains closed. When you follow the soul, the path unfolds with clarity. The gate of fear is not physical, it is vibrational and subtle. The choice is always inner. The mind trembles and resists, but the soul already knows that beyond this shadow lies your birthright of liberation. The sacred gate reveals that fear was never an enemy, only a guardian of destiny and awakening. It stands before your treasure not to harm you, but to ask a question. Are you ready to embody what you seek and what you are? Fear ensures that only the awakened cross, only those who have chosen truth over illusion and love over hesitation. In this way, fear is not punishment, it is initiation, not a curse, but a teacher disguised in darkness, waiting for recognition. On the other side of fear, you don't find death, you find life itself renewed and expanded. Every time you step through the sacred gate, you are reborn into a wider horizon of possibility. Fear does not end you, it expands you into more of who you truly are. It does not close your path, it opens it with sacred fire, and with every gate you cross, you remember more of your eternal nature. Not fragile, but divine, walking invincibly through the fire of transformation. Chapter 5, Living Invincibility. Invincibility is not the absence of fear. It is the mastery of walking with it in harmony. To live invincibly means fear may still whisper, but its voice no longer dictates your path or chains your decisions. The warrior of light feels the trembling, yet continues the journey unshaken. Fear becomes a shadow walking behind, not a master walking ahead. This is the art of invincibility, not silence of fear, but sovereignty over it. To live invincibly is to rise each day, knowing fear may appear, but you are no longer its prisoner. Fear may knock at the door, but you choose whether to let it in. Courage becomes the constant companion of your heart, guiding you beyond hesitation. The spirit remembers its eternal nature, and with that remembrance, fear loses its crown. You realize you are not fragile, you are infinite, clothed in mortal skin, yet carrying immortal fire. Every moment of courage rewires your soul, proving that you are greater than the illusion that once bound you. Each act of bravery is a sacred imprint in your being, like fire carving symbols of power in stone. Step by step, you replace fear's architecture with the blueprint of strength. Invincibility is not built in one moment. It is sculpted in thousands of decisions where you chose light over shadow, truth over illusion, love over fear. Invincibility is presence, rooted in love, anchored in truth, unshaken by shadows or storms. It is the calm heart in the middle of chaos, the flame that flickers but never extinguishes. Presence makes you untouchable, because no matter what happens outside, inside you remain whole. The world can roar, circumstances can tremble, but your essence remains intact. This is not fantasy. It is the remembrance of the eternal sanctuary within. It is the steady flame that no wind can extinguish, the silent knowing that whispers, "I am safe, I am eternal." Invincibility is not about never falling. It is about rising again and again, carrying wisdom each time. It is the gentle resilience of the soul that refuses to forget its light. Fear may shake the body, but it cannot extinguish the essence. In this remembrance, you walk like fire through shadows, untouched, unstoppable. Daily practice makes this invincible state real. Breath, mantra, awareness, and sacred action are not rituals of the weak, but weapons of the strong. Each conscious breath anchors the soul in presence. Each mantra reprograms the mind with divine frequency. Each act aligned with truth builds the muscles of courage. Invincibility is not a sudden gift. It is a discipline of remembrance, cultivated until it becomes your natural vibration. Gratitude purifies fear, dissolving its poison with the sweetness of recognition. To give thanks is to remind the soul that abundance already flows, that nothing is lacking. Fear thrives on scarcity, but gratitude reminds you that you already stand in fullness. Each thank you is a sword that slices through illusion. Gratitude shifts your eyes from what could go wrong to what is already radiant, already whole, already sacred in your life. Love transforms fear. Where love enters, fear dissolves like mist at sunrise. Love is not weakness, it is the highest strength, for it dismantles illusions by reminding you of truth. Fear says, you are alone. Love says, you are one with the universe. Fear says, you are not enough. Love whispers, you are already divine. When you live from love, fear cannot rule you, because the heart becomes the throne of the soul. Invincibility is not arrogance, but deep trust in the universe's guidance. It is not shouting, I fear nothing, but softly declaring, even if fear comes, I walk anyway. This is not about domination, it is about surrender to the divine current. The Invincible One knows they are held, guided, supported by an intelligence greater than themselves. This trust becomes armor, not of steel, but of faith that nothing can truly harm the eternal soul. It is walking forward, even when outcomes are unknown, with faith as compass and destiny as guide. Fear demands certainty. The soul thrives in mystery. Invincibility is the willingness to step into the fog, trusting that the ground will rise beneath your feet. It is not recklessness, it is alignment. When the soul is aligned with truth, the unknown is not a threat, but a promise. This is how the invincible walk, by faith, not by sight. Invincibility radiates outward, inspiring others to rise beyond their own fears. The courage of one soul awakens courage in many. Just as fire spreads from torch to torch, your invincibility ignites the hearts of others. Your life becomes a mirror, showing them their own strength. And so, by living beyond fear, you do not only free yourself, you liberate the collective, becoming a light in the dark corridors of humanity's illusions. To live invincibly is to remember, you were never fragile, you were always eternal. Fear convinced you of smallness, but the soul knows its vastness. Living invincibility is not about perfection, but about remembrance. Remembering who you are, what you carry, and why you came. Fear may knock, shadows may whisper, but you walk as light embodied. And in that walk, you prove the final truth. Invincibility was never something to gain. It was always your essence. You have walked through shadows, uncovered the ancient architecture of fear, and entered the sacred fire of transformation. Each gate crossed has stripped away illusion, revealing the eternal essence within you. Fear, once a prison, has become a teacher. Once a dragon, now a guide. The soul that feared is not the soul that now stands. You have discovered the secret whispered through ages. Invincibility is remembrance of your eternal nature. The path of the warrior of light is not to escape fear, but to embrace it, transmute it, and walk with it as an ally. You have seen that fear is not an enemy to destroy, but a shadow that dissolves under the gaze of awareness and love. You now carry tools that masters held: breath, presence, courage, gratitude. These are no longer teachings outside of you. They are powers awakened within, written into the rhythm of your spirit. Every act of courage, no matter how small, becomes an offering to the universe, a declaration that love is greater than illusion. The Invincible One is not untouched by fear, but untouched by its chains. You have crossed the threshold and discovered that on the other side of trembling lies clarity, on the other side of silence lies voice, on the other side of shadow lies light, and that light has always been yours. Now, Seeker, your journey continues, not here on these words, but in the living theater of your daily life. Each decision, each thought, each breath is another chance to embody what you have remembered. Fear may knock again, but you now carry the fire of invincibility, and that fire does not extinguish. Walk forward with love, with courage, with presence, for the universe conspires with the invincible soul who remembers who they truly are. If this journey awakens something within you, let your light expand beyond this moment. Subscribe and join this circle of seekers who dare to walk through fear into freedom. Activate the bell so every new revelation finds you at the exact moment you need it. Leave your voice in the comments. What fear are you now ready to release? Your words may inspire another soul to step through their sacred gate, and share this message so the fire of invincibility spreads like dawn across the world.